Thank you so much, Dolly, for another wonderful fitness segment. So, I know Father's Day is tomorrow, but happy Father's Day to all the fathers and fathers-to-be. Let me start by reading you a letter by General Douglas MacArthur. Build me a son, O Lord, who will be strong enough to know he is weak, and brave enough to face himself when he is afraid. One who will be proud and unbending in honesty, defeat, and humble and gentle in victory. Build me a son whose wishes will not take the place of deeds. A son who will know thee, that to know himself is the foundation stone of knowledge. Lead him, I pray, not in the path of ease and comfort, but under the stress and spur of difficulties and challenge. Here, let him learn to stand up in the storm. Here, let him learn compassion for those who fail. Build me a son whose heart will be clear, whose goal will be high, a son who will master himself before he seeks to master others. One who will reach into the future and never forget the past. And for all these things are his, add, I pray, enough of a sense of humor so that he may always be serious, never take himself too seriously. Give him humility so that he may always remember the simplicity of true greatness, the open mind of true wisdom, and the meekness of true strength. Then I, his father, will dare to whisper, I have not lived in vain. This is the essence of what we're talking about today. This prayer is soaked in wisdom and understanding of what it truly means to be a man. It talks about character, heart, humility, vulnerability, strength, tenacity, humor, laughter, love. Attributes that make for a well-rounded man. But how does a baby boy get from being a boy to becoming this man General Douglas MacArthur has just described? That's what I'll be discussing today with my guests, Dipo and Tope Olagbegi. Tope is the CEO of Sixth Sense Interiors, convener of multiple mentorship programs, and the owner of multiple income streams. Dipo is the CEO of Stark, a company that teaches young people STEM, that's science, technology, and all other tech-related practices. Together, they are the proud parents of one teenage boy and 2 teenage daughters. Welcome, Dipo and Tope.
Thanks,
It
Feran.
is awesome to have you here with me today. Dipo, you literally just come off the plane and come here. I am so honored. Thank you so much.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, I want us to jump straight in and start the discuss. What does it mean to be a father?
Wow, it's a big one. But I think it's just a privilege, really, to be honest. It's a privilege to be a father. Whether you're raising a son or you're raising a daughter, it's one of the things that you look back and you say, yeah, thank God I had the opportunity to do this. You know, it's a privilege, but it's also, I've also found that it's also like a learning opportunity as well. You know, nobody is like marriage, for instance. When you get married, there's no manual. Nobody gives you a manual and say this is how you and the same thing with fatherhood. You know, you get back home. You know, for a lot of us, maybe, you know, if your wife, you know, maybe she was in hospital for two days, or if she had a CS or C-section, it might be longer. But you get back home, you know, after about a week with this bundle of joy, wailing, and then you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, you know, I'm now responsible for another human being, and that feeling is so surreal, you know. Like for me, I think I was up all night just staring at my son for the first time, and I couldn't sleep. I was so excited, you know. I was like, wow, you know, this is like a mini me, you know. But when you're overwhelmed by that sense of responsibility, that oh my God, this person's entire requirements is now dependent on me. I have to make sure he eats. I have to make sure he goes to school. I have to make sure, you know. So it's just it can be a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
I can imagine. I
but
can
it's
imagine.
definitely a privilege. That's why I put it.
I can imagine. So I'm going to take us back to the letter that MacArthur wrote.
Totally.
Talk about, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that was a lot of depth.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of depth, a lot of things actually that I want to assume goes on in the minds of most parents, but he has been able to articulate the words very eloquently. The first line, I suppose, is what maybe struck me the hardest, and that is, you know,
Strong enough to know when he's weak.
When he's weak. And I'd like to allude to the fact that a lot of men are unable to come to terms with the fact that they can be weak and they're allowed to be weak, you know. But in admitting and in accepting that you are weak is actually strength.
Yes.
Yes,
it
you
is.
know. And
It
so
is.
to the Nigerian men, most especially, who, I don't know if it's societal pressures, you know, that have caused our men never to admit any moment of weakness, you know. His letter is apt, you know, in saying strength lies in you accepting that you can be weak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does. So as a parent of a teenage, almost adult boy, how do you then teach? What are the tools that you used to teach that boy from the day he was born, where you realized that you were responsible for another human being, up until where he is now, and then where he will get to in the future? What are the tools you use to teach him all of these things that are essential to being a well-rounded man, including him understanding that it's okay to be weak?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, really good question for me, and you know, obviously this will probably take like 1 hour or 1 hour, definitely 1 hour and 30-minute segments to go through everything. But I just want to hit some of the highlights, and one of the things I've realized, particularly with raising up kids, or particularly raising up sons, that what you say matters, but what you do is more important. So it's not just by just saying, oh, do this, do that, and not following the same pattern. So children are very apt or very intuitive when it comes to watching or learning from how a father does. So what I try to do is to model a behavior that I believe, you know, is worthy of emulation. So that puts a lot of pressure on me, you know, to ensure that, look, you know, when I'm speaking to his mom, I'm not raising my voice. I'm not, you know, I won't hit him or hit her in front, or, you know, when I don't hit my wife, but I wouldn't hit her, you know, or just, you know, so even because when we argue, the kids don't know. We're always like, you know, when they come in, like, just keep quiet, you know. So, but I try to model a behavior that I believe, you know, is beneficial or will help him to be a better man. And the second thing which I also try to do is look for teachable moments. So I look for things that, particularly situations, you know, one of the hardest part of parenting, and I always say, is that despite the fact that you've spoken to your child and you said, oh, don't do this, you know, there's that possibility that the child will still do it. And, you know, being a parent, being able to look at your child, it's like, you know, riding a bicycle. You know that the child might fall if he's not careful. But, you know, the child goes on the bicycle and is doing wheelies and he falls eventually, you know. But you have to be there to say, okay, look, let me help you up. This is how you should navigate stuff, you know. And, yeah, so looking for teachable moments is very important. So maybe it's whatever, it could be graduation, it could be something like an experience. And you say, look, this is how you navigate such and such and such a problem, you know. Like my son had a problem with a friend of his, and we're arguing over money, something related. So when I told him, I said, look, you know, people are different when it comes to money. What you think is not a big deal might be a big deal to somebody else. You know, keep the relationship, you know, but understand how this person handles or this person's relationship to money, you know. So, you know, so there are a lot of those moments come up, you know, all through life, you know. And as much as you try to equip your child to be the perfect gentleman, you know, it's always an uphill task, you know. So a lot of what we also teach comes from, you know, our beliefs as Christians and from the Bible. I always say, look, you know, you don't be like me, be like Jesus. And then, you know, you can't be saying between me and Jesus. You'll find something that works for you. But yeah, because kids have different personality. And another thing I think, I don't want to hit as something that is lacking though, but I know it takes a society to raise a child. So even as a parent though, even though you've set the tone and set the standard, you know, if other male figures around him aren't doing the same thing, you know, or you know, it could now become you know, it could throw him off, or it could affect, it could also influence. So it's also important that you put him in a situation where he also sees other people, other men apart from yourself, that uphold the same values as you. You know, in some tribes in Africa, I don't know, not too many examples in Nigeria, but I know there's one in Mali. There's what you call the rite of passage. When a boy becomes like 16, you know, the men of the village take the young men to somewhere secluded, and they sort of train them, you know, onto how to become a man. You know, I think we lack that in society today. You know, it would be interesting to see what that would look like. To say, okay, look, let's all men that we have male sons all take them at a certain age and say, okay, we're going to take them somewhere for a camp for 2-3 weeks. You know, I know they do something similar to this in the States, but where we teach them lessons that we've learned, some the easy way, some the hard way, but you know, being able to pass on that information, I think is really, really key.
I hear what you're saying, Dipo, and whilst I agree with you, here's a question for you, Tope. The man that is taking the boy to teach him how to be a man may not have been taught himself how to be a man. So isn't there a chance that how do you avoid teaching him the wrong things?
Okay, so great question. There is a Yoruba adage that goes, "Eyoman ture eko," that is, you can reteach yourself. And so for many men out there who didn't have very strong parental upbringing, you know, there are two choices. One is I would go in the way that I know, which I can clearly see hasn't worked or isn't working, or I decide to toe a different route, all right? And so it's either their offspring, all right, goes with or sees or emulates a father figure who has decided to reteach himself, you know. And a man who is reteaching himself is surrounding himself with mentors. He's consistently reading. He's consistently, you know, retweaking his value system, right? The one who just leaves everything to chance, all right, is clearly not doing any of that, can visibly see his errors and, you know, doesn't see the need or feel the sense of responsibility whatsoever towards his offspring to do different, all right? And so, yes, it is difficult, all right? And there would be most definitely a flawed mentorship or parenting process if this man in question has not unschooled the things that he'd learned. Yeah, most definitely. And so the question then is, yes, there will be children who are being raised poorly. Yeah, and there will be children who, although their fathers were not well raised, because of their decision to unlearn certain things, all right, will definitely get a better chance at making it and succeeding better as human beings.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's easier said than done, unfortunately,
Right.
particularly in our society.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw a bit of a spanner in the works, and I want both of you to give me 5 points each. So let's take a boy child, yeah, from infancy to the age of 25.
Okay.
Yeah. So give me 5 do's and don'ts, 5 do's and don'ts. From a male perspective, from a female perspective.
Do's and don'ts. Yeah.
Yes. Or let's make it easier. Let's say 3 do's, 3 don'ts. 3 do's, 3 don'ts.
Okay.
Okay. 3 do's. 1, obviously, is like it's lead by example, like I said earlier on. You know, particularly male children are very, very, very. They learn from seeing. You know, so what you do, your actions really, really matter. Second do is definitely engage. Spend a lot of time to understand your child. You know what he's thinking. What are his his belief system. What are his aspirations? You know, because one of the things about I think that a lot of men find frustrating is that your son might not be like you. So it can be a bit difficult for a lot of men because their egos. My son should be like me. I like football, and the boy doesn't like football. My son doesn't like soccer. He doesn't like football. But I think partly it's my fault because I support Arsenal. Maybe I exposed him too much. But,
Sorry to the Arsenal supporters out there.
Sorry, I apologize. Maybe, but he does like football. He rather watch basketball, and he's into fashion. He likes more. He likes music. So he's got his own thing. So seek to understand who he is, definitely. And then thirdly, be there for your son when he fails, when he has a difficulty or a challenge. Be there for him because they will have challenge. They will have something. They will have a struggle. So you want to be there. And I don't know if I can share this example, but I remember one time my son went out and he had a bit. I think it was with his friends. He had alcohol, so and he got drunk. Well, because maybe it was his first time having alcohol. So anyway, he called me and he said, "Dad, I can't go home. Please come and get me." I went there to get him. I got there. It was a party. There were a lot of like teenagers all over the place. I think it was like 18 or 19 then, so it was of age legally to drink. So I just said. So I just got there. And I said, "Oh, I'm looking for my son. He's at the back." I just went. And I got him no questions asked. I didn't even discuss anything with him. Just let's get into the car. I drove home. Go to your room. I won't tell your mom. She found out anyway. She won't find out everything. But I was really, really happy that he could call me. A lot of people, don't have that kind of relationship where your child in that kind of situation. I don't think I would have been able to call my dad. In fact, I don't. I would not have been able to call my dad.
I was just thinking that. How do you even have that situation where your child can call you?
Yeah, I don't know how we built it over the time, to be honest. I can't tell you specifically, but we've always tried to create we'd rather know than not know.
Yeah.
Okay? That atmosphere with the children.
So that goes
as
back
much
to
as
engaging.
I might not approve, but I'd rather know than not know. So they know that, look, and my son knows that, I might shout, I might rake at him later on, and definitely, and this one we had there was a teachable moment, like I saw it. And we had plenty of moments of teaching after that, but at least I was able to, explain. But I was there for him when he needed, just help him out.
Yeah.
So those would be my 3 do's. Don'ts obviously would be not to, obviously set a bad example. Like I said, it's very tough raising a child in this environment right now because, like I said, it takes a village, so it's not just you. So don't try to impose too much of yourself on your child. Don't try to make him like you, because this child's got his own identity. So help him discover that, as opposed to trying to say, "Oh, this is what I like. You must like that." Point in case Aston. So I think what last don't would be maybe, like I said, also be very particular about how you treat his mother, because that's also very important to how the male child views relationships. He looks at relationships through you. My son now has a girlfriend, but when he wants to call and to ask me question about his girlfriend, he will reference, "Oh, but you and mom don't do this," and the girl, and I'm like, and I've made him understand that, look, women are different. They're not all the same. Because your mom and I do something does not mean that this person would like that. Anyway, that's my piece.
So my 3 don'ts will be do's. Whichever comes first. I think do's should come first. My do's would be first to speak to the child from a very young age.
What do you mean by speak to the child?
Have conversations, even when you think they don't understand. So they learn to converse with you. They learn the art of communication, you know. So I'd say from a very young age, speak to the child, you know. I would say my second would be have a lot of physical touch, especially with a male child, yes, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so touch a child.
Why would you say that?
It teaches your child to be in tune with their softer side.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many men who don't know how to show affection towards their spouses. All right? Wow. Yes, okay? And that's one of the things a lot of women want. All right? Yeah, they want non-sexual communication, you know, and so touch, yeah. Hand touches, you know, face touches, shoulder touches, you know, as the child grows, yeah. My third would be to listen. So a lot of words go around, but very little listening is happening. Yeah. So I'd say listen. Listen to the child. Listen to what the child is saying. Listen to what the child is not saying.
And how the child is saying it.
Yes, and how the child is saying it, yeah. So a parent, one big do for me is to listen, yeah. I tend to watch my children a lot, all right? So I'm not just hearing for the things that they're saying verbally. I'm looking at their body language. I'm looking at how they respond to things. And so before you know it, you can almost preempt what your child is thinking or what they're going through, yes. For the don'ts, don't not show your child a good example. Yes. Don't fail to be the best version of yourself.
What's the best version of yourself, though?
The best version of yourself is the authentic you.
Okay.
The best version of yourself is when you're consistently striving to be a better person, better than you were yesterday. Yes. The best version of yourself is not when you're in competition with another person. The best version of yourself is when you look back at last month and you look back at 6 months ago and you know that there have been improvements in your lifestyle, in your habits. Yeah.
Does the best version of yourself also include having fun? Because I think a lot of parents miss that as well.
Absolutely. You know, when you are your authentic self, your fun side would surface. When you're your authentic self, all right, the visionary in you will come out. All right? Yeah. Everything that has been deposited on the inside of you would shine when you are your authentic self.
And that's how you become a good role model.
That's how you become a good role model. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is this, you know, this is exactly what it is. This is exactly what it's about. Yeah. Because like you said, there are a lot of men who didn't get all of this information. You know, so they came into manhood deficient, you know, and it seems like there's a lot of pressure on boys and men. And I'd like to understand why this is.
Okay. Why there's a lot of pressure? Society places these pressures.
Society or our parents?
Yeah. Society, I suppose.
It's a very good question, Feran. And I use it points in case. I have a very good friend of mine, very young friend of mine, and he, very smart guy, very intelligent, finished from a very good degree at a very young age. But his dad, in trying to make him a success, put so much pressure on him to the extent where there's little or no relationship left because they put under a lot of pressure. And we do it because as parents, we always believe that it's education. Have you read your book? That seems to be the main go-to. Or are you reading? So we judge how well a child is doing by how successful they are in their academics. That might have worked for a period of time, in time, maybe for our parents, but our doing our own, in a way, was you went to show your dad that you were, you know, his straight A's was the best thing you could do, you know. But for this generation, that is not enough.
This generation being
Z or
I was
X or
trying
Z.
to remember myself.
Yeah, but if somebody raising a boy child now, it's not just about what the child brings as a, in terms of how well it does academically. That goes beyond, because we've seen over time now that it does not necessarily, because you are very good academically, does not mean you're going to have the best life. It doesn't follow, doesn't translate. But back then, it was important to have economic stability. So, and a lot of the people that were, back then, it wasn't just you. So you had to do a course that would provide for you and the rest of your maybe siblings as well. So there's a lot of, but now it's more, we're in a global village. People now, they see the world in a very different way.
Yeah,
so it's very important, as parents that you don't make that the only thing. You try and look at all the parts together and then try and say, okay, look, have you given it your best shot? Are you doing the best you can? Because to be honest, we're not perfect.
Yes.
And that's just the thing. Parenting is not about, I don't think parenting is about trying to be a perfect person, but it's about trying to show your child and say, look, this is the standard. This is where you should aim for. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm aiming for it. This is where I've struggled. This is what I couldn't get right. I'm still struggling. This is where I've been able to be successful. This is where, but that's the standard, you know.
Yeah.
And that standard, I realize, also varies depending on who you are.
Yes.
People have different
Yes.
views about, what is I remember a time I was teaching a class in church and we're looking for male role models, like real life role models, and it was tough. And we're looking for role models that could say, okay, this person has everything covered. Like, let's say Bill Gates, for instance. Bill Gates was a very good up until he divorced last year or this year, So divorce is not really his fault. I'm not blaming him for that. I'm just saying, though, that it's hard to find a guy that checks all the boxes.
Yeah. I see what you mean. I really do see what you mean. And that's going to take me to my question to you, Tope. It seems like there are a lot of good, strong, responsible women, raising sons who become emotionally absent husbands and fathers, and in some cases, bad leaders, but they remain good sons to their mothers. Why is this?
You always come up with the
That's a tough one. Let's just move back on that one.
So I'm going to start from the marriage, okay? And these very strong women have been thrown into marriage relationships that they have hardly been able to cope with. Yeah. So you find that her strength has come out of either a tumultuous relationship. She has hardly been able to figure out this marriage relationship thingy going on, right? And so to the outside world, she's a strong, fierce woman facing her challenges. However, when a woman is not emotionally whole, it is really hard for her to see to all the fine details, right? When it comes to her family and family dynamics, these sons are seeing imbalance. Yes. They're seeing the cracks you and I may not be able to see from the outside. Yeah. They're seeing mommy be everything, the be all and the end all in the relationship. And so they're learning they're learning by seeing mom be everything, they're learning unconsciously to assume the role of abdicating responsibility to the women in their lives.
Wow.
Yes. So strong women are not most times raising strong sons. For a boy child to be strong, all right, he needs to see a father figure take the position of strength.
But doesn't that mean
the
emotional
family.
Absence, strength? Because sometimes people confuse that.
How do
They
you
think if you're strong, you can be emotionally absent.
Oh, no. You can be strong, and still be very emotionally present. Yes. Yeah. As we talk about this authentic self, all right? Yeah, you're strong, but, you know, you understand, because life really, we need to be emotionally, I'm looking for the word. We need to be emotionally poignant. We need to be emotionally aware of the people around us, the things that are happening around us, for us to truly be authentic. Yes. And so, back to the question, this is, I suppose, one of the reasons why the male child seems to grow up under strong tutelage, strong maternal tutelage, but then he's not exactly.
Can I answer this question as a mommy's boy? You know, so
Okay. Very quickly, please.
I love my mom. You know, so you know, as growing up, as much as a man, you have a natural relationship with your mom. You know, that's how different from what you have with your dad. You know, so your mom, you know, she takes care of you when you're sick. She gives you food. You know, she's very motherly. So a lot of times, even when you're looking for your wife, you're thinking, okay, I want somebody that's, you know, that's not, you know, that's not only beautiful, but that can also take care of my mom. I like that, you know. And so definitely by default, a lot of men, you know, have that love. But in terms of being emotional, for them to understand the other part of it, which is that being emotionally aware for their own wives, they need to see it in a man. They need to see their dads do it. So I say more, not so much as more of a issue of the mothers being too dominant, as dad's not taking up that position. You know, as my son sees how I relate with his mom, you know, so I'm giving him a play card that, you know, they definitely, you know, he should follow. That look, this is how you treat women. You know, you put them on a pedestal. You treat them with a lot of love. You know, and that's what essentially with that. So I think it's both parties complementing each other. You know, but the model of the image we see of a Nigerian man sometimes is a very aloof daddy that comes home and just puts money down, bam, everybody runs to their rooms. You know, it's not really, you know, there's no conversation about relationship. Yeah. But I'll give an example for myself personally. My dad never really spoke to me about women, or you know, the only thing I remember my dad ever saying to me about women was that I shouldn't date a Jamaican. Because I'm so sorry. My brother was dating Jamaicans at the time, and then I think he dated Jamaican. And so Dipo, don't date Jamaicans. And then, shout out to all the Jamaicans. I love you guys. You know, I'm just saying, but that was the only relationship advice I got from my dad. But I was smart enough to realize that, look, there's more to this. You know, and then I was also lucky that my wife was really patient with me when we started going out, and she taught me a lot as well. So, you know, so men can learn. Like Tope said earlier on, we just need good teachers, you know.
Wow, this has been awesome. This is a conversation we can have forever and ever. And sadly, we've run out of time. And before I say a huge thank you to you guys, the one thing that I wanted to point out to us as individuals is community is not about government or society. It's about the family. It's about the marriage. So raising a boy child to become a good husband, a good leader, a good father starts from the marriage. And like Tope and Dipo have just pointed out, both parties have a role to play in the successful raising of the boy child. When I was looking for a guest for this, I remember being told you should get a female guest, not a male guest, because it's the woman that raises the child. That's why I decided I wanted to get a male and a female guest so that I could have balance. And I'm so happy I got that. Thank you so much for being here with me this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It has been an absolute honor. So in a few minutes, John and I will be wrapping up the show, and we'll be sending kisses and hugs to Helen as well. So please stay with us for a few more minutes. Thank you.